Hello, this is my first time doing this, so not sure how it will work out. I'm in my office, which you can see in the background here. This office was so untidy and so cluttered that I'd stopped using it. I'd just come in and put something in the filing cabinet or take something out and never use it. And then, of course, with the COVID lockdown, I got to do all these tidy ups. This office, my shed, everything else, everything is so tidy now. And now I love my office. It's a bit like a man's shed here now. You can't get me out of it. I just love being in it. And so we're going to start something new here today. I'm going to try and do sort of a video podcast, maybe every time we put out a newsletter, and maybe at other times now too in the future. We'll see how it goes. And each time I will pick a topic related to our Celtic spiritual tradition, either the Christian element of it or the pagan element of it. And today I'd like to start with the topic I call the thin veil. So the thin veil is the Celtic way of understanding the boundary between the world that we're familiar with, the grass outside, the weather, the sun, the wind, the trees, each other, our animals and plants. That's the world we're familiar with. And then there's an other world which we know is out there, but it's not so easy to see it or feel it or understand it. And it's like there's a sort of a boundary between the two of us, even though we know the other world is there. And that boundary in the Celtic tradition is called the thin veil. And I want to talk about that. And one of the images I have for explaining it is, imagine you're a fully developed human being, but you're inside the womb of your mother. So you have a life in there, and maybe you understand the life that's going on inside the womb, but outside the womb, you're not sure what's there. You can hear noises, you can hear what we might call voices, might hear music, but you actually don't know what it is. And you might feel bumps and you might feel movement and all these things, but you're not quite sure what it is. You just experience things coming in through the boundary of your womb. And you then have to interpret what these experiences might be. So that's like where we are in the real world as well. It's like we're in the womb. Evolution has given us certain senses, like our touch, our hearing, our sight, our smell, and so on. But we know that outside of those abilities of our senses, there's actually a lot of other things going on. For example, there's radio waves. I'm communicating with you through the internet. I can't see the internet. I have to sort of imagine it. There's an awful lot going on. Ultrasound, ultraviolet. These are waves that come at us, but we don't have our senses tuned into them. And we've discovered, in fact, that other animals and birds can tune into things that we can't tune into. A dog can hear sounds that are higher than we can hear. A bird apparently can tune into the magnetic field of the earth, which is quite amazing. And other animals have other senses that we perhaps know nothing about. So we're restricted within a bubble. And outside of that bubble is the other world. So, and this veil separates us. And a veil is a great phrase because it's very thin and it's sort of semi-see-through. So you can see some things through it, but you can't see the whole lot. And what comes to us through the veil are experiences. So there's things that we experience in our lives which we can't really explain. Who am I? Why am I who I am? Why did I get the parents I got? Why was I born at this time in history? And so many other questions that are hard to answer, and certainly science won't ever answer them for us. So that's what's at the far side of the veil. We get these experiences, and then we try to interpret these experiences, and we try to put names on them. So you might believe in God, for example, and that maybe gives you a framework in which to explain these greater aspects of your life. But what I want to try and suggest to you is that the images that we create for our answers to these questions are images that we create. They're from our own imaginations. So when you think of God, you're thinking of something that you have generated in your own imagination. Now, you may have got some of the images of God from, of course, your upbringing and from the religion that you grew up with, and from society and so culture and so on. But nonetheless, this image is a human creation. Does God actually look like that? We don't know. All we know is that we get messages from the other side, from through this veil, and then we create an image that tries to explain those messages. So the images, if you think of the veil then as like a screen, and we project images onto the screen. So when you look at those images on the screen, you might think, oh, they're coming from the far side. No, they're not. They're coming from our imaginations. And so that's one of the questions that I'm trying to deal with in this latest book that I have written. Still doesn't have a satisfactory title. I think it's going to be called Oh My God, or maybe just the shortened version of that, OMG. But I'm going to have to decide very soon because it's ready to go other than the title. We have the cover, just not the title, and we have the book fully written. I may do a few tweaks to it and I'll have to write an introduction. There's a few bits and pieces to go, but it's more or less there. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, and we'll talk about other things maybe in the future. I have in mind, for example, to talk a bit more about what these messages look like and how we can maybe notice them better in our lives when they come from the other world through this thin veil, and how best we can live our lives so that we're more in touch with this other world that's out there. So I'd like to talk about that more, and I'd like to talk about our personal identities and how we have to find them, and how we then maybe find our destiny through finding our identity. All of that. It's a sort of a big, big, big issue, and I have lots and lots of other topics that I want to talk about with you. A lot of them dealt with in the book, but you can look forward to these being sent to you, at least on newsletter. So thanks for listening, and I'd like your feedback. Please send me an email. You can send it to ashmag@iol.ie or to daramalloy@me.com either. Talk to you soon again. Bye.